This pandemic changed a lot of things in our world and with your money. Like if you were rich before the pandemic, well, chances are you feel richer now than you did before. And if you were poor before the pandemic, well, chances are you probably feel poorer now than you did before. ABC News covered a report that showed that rich people got richer and poor people got poorer amid this pandemic. And then CNN Business said as millions fell into poverty during the pandemic, rich people, billionaires, became even wealthier. How much wealthier? Well, The Guardian says that the richest Americans became 40% richer during the pandemic, but then you have other reports saying that the rich billionaires got 62% richer during the pandemic. What's up, everybody? I am Jaspreet Singh, and if you're scratching your head wondering what the heck is going on, this doesn't make any sense, well, you're not alone. We went through a worldwide health crisis, and we went through a worldwide recession, and yet you have some people, the rich people, who became now significantly more rich, while you have the majority of the world, average people, who are now poorer than they were before. Regular people are struggling to pay their bills, regular people are struggling to pay their rent, regular people are struggling to buy groceries because everything is way more expensive, while you have some people that just keep getting richer. Now, before we go any deeper, I do want to give you a little bit of a trigger warning, because if you're easily triggered, you probably don't want to watch this video. So this is you right here. You are this good looking person. Let me draw you a nice mustache. And for our female followers, let me draw you right here and draw you a nice braid, or as we like to call it in my native language, Punjabi, a gut. You are in this situation right now. And we are in a world where the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. Now, this is not new, but the pandemic had accelerated this. Now, the rich are getting richer faster, and the poor and the middle class are getting poorer faster. Now, at this point, you have two options. Either you can play the blame game, get mad at the rich, hate it, hate the system, complain, cry, or you can do the learn game, and you can say, what is going on in the system? How can I learn how the rich have become rich and how they are getting richer? That way I can benefit from the system, because now you want to capitalize on what's going on. So I can't tell you which one you should play. But if you want to be the person playing the blame game, you want to complain, you want to cry, you want to hate the system, you want to hate everything, well, then you can just hit that X button on this corner or this corner and just leave this video, because in this video, we're going to be talking about the learn game. Because the reality is the rich are getting richer, and this pandemic has accelerated that. And the rich are going to continue getting richer at a faster rate. So either you can get with the times, understand what's going on, learn what the rich are doing, that way you can become rich and then stay rich, because you need to understand what's going on now more than ever. Now, I want you to listen to me very carefully here, because in 2020 and 2021, the United States government printed 40% of all of our money in existence right now. In just those 2 years, we had 40% of all of our money that we have in existence, that paper dollars, our cash, 40% of it was printed in 2020 and 2021 with the goal of trying to help poor people, middle class people survive through this pandemic. And what did it do? Well, it gave the poor and the middle class a little bit of a boost, but then it ultimately made rich people richer. Because now we are in a position where the rich and the wealthy are significantly richer now than they were before the pandemic. And at the same time, the poor and the middle class are now poorer than they were before the pandemic. Why? The government printed this money with good intentions, or at least that's what we want to believe. They wanted to help the people, they wanted to help the average person, so they started printing money with the goal of helping regular people, the middle class and the poor, have a chance to survive and maybe even thrive through this pandemic. So what they did was, well, some of this money went out in the form of bailouts, some of this money went out in the form of welfare, and then some of this money went out in the form of stimulus checks. So the government took this money, they printed it, and then they started giving it to people and businesses. Well, then what happened? Well, you have these people, the people that took this money, they got this money because they didn't have any savings. You didn't have much savings, you didn't have investments to fall back on. So now you needed cash because the whole world was slowing down. You didn't have an income, and now you needed to pay your bills. You had to pay your rent, you had to pay your groceries, you had to pay for your electricity because that way, you needed some money to keep the heat on. So now you take this cash and then you go to the store. What do? Well, now you take this money, you go to Walmart or you go to Amazon, and then you go shopping. And then you start buying your groceries. And now what are you left with? Well, you have some groceries, but you have no money. But Amazon and Walmart, well, they sold you the goods. They sold you the groceries. So now what do they have? Well, they sold you a product, and now they have bigger profits. Amazon, the company, brought in record sales during the pandemic because people needed to shop. They don't want to go into the grocery store, so they started shopping online. So who benefited? Amazon and the owners of the company of Amazon, the shareholders, because now they made bigger profits and their stock price skyrocketed. Now at this point, you're probably going to say, but Jaspreet, people needed groceries, they need food, they needed things. What do you want them to do? Not shop, not eat? Well, you smart person, I'm glad you brought that up because it wasn't just Amazon that benefited, luxury brands benefited too. Gucci saw a massive amount of sales in 2021. In 2021, we were still in lockdown for the first half of 2021. In 2021, we were still in a recession. In 2021, people were still not working. We were seeing record unemployment rates. And yet, we were seeing record-breaking luxury sales at Gucci. Gucci was seeing sales, the same sales they were seeing before the pandemic, in the middle of a pandemic. And it wasn't just Gucci. Louis Vuitton, LVMH, the company that owns Louis Vuitton, saw record-breaking sales of their luxury items in the middle of a recession. We were in one of the worst recessions in the history of time, yet these luxury companies, Louis Vuitton and Gucci, were making record-breaking sales. Louis Vuitton was making money hand over fist. They couldn't even produce enough stuff to sell people because everybody wanted to take their money and go out and buy some Louis Vuitton. They wanted to buy some Gucci. People were willing to wait 2 hours in line. They were willing to spend 2 hours in the freezing cold standing in line to pay $6,000 to buy a purse. Let me diagram what this means because if you're a visual person like me, it'll make a lot more sense if you see it. So over here, we have the government. And then over here, we have the people, average people. So what happened was the government worked with the Federal Reserve Bank to start printing money. So they started printing this money right here, and they started giving it to people. And then people became very happy because, hey, I got some free money. I don't got to pay my rent. I don't got to pay my mortgage. I got a stimulus check in the mail. The average person felt wealthier because now you had this free money. Now, what happened for a lot of people, not everybody, but for a lot of people, the average person, they now took this new free money that they were making and they started spending it, even if they didn't need to spend it, because of course you had some people that didn't have any money, they couldn't eat, so they needed this cash to go out and buy groceries. But you had a lot of people that were continuing to work, that had money, that now didn't need to spend this money. They didn't need to go out and use this money to buy their groceries. They didn't need to use this money to pay for their electricity bill. So they took this cash and then they started spending it at these companies, these big corporations. And so now what you saw happen was money flowed from the Fed and the government down to people, and then it flowed up right here to the corporations, the big companies. And so here, when the government started printing money, remember, they printed 40% of all dollars in circulation in 2020 and 2021. What that did was it diluted the value of everybody's dollar. Not just the money that they printed, but all the dollars that you had saved in your account here, all the money that you were earning from your job, well, it's not worth as much. If you were making $25,000 before, well, that $25,000 isn't going to buy you as much. If you were making $250,000 before, well, your $250,000 salary isn't going to buy you as much as it did before. I mean, just look at the price of everything around you. It's going up. Everybody keeps blaming supply chain issues, but if you're financially educated, you know it's not just supply chain issues, it's inflation at work. You're printing more money, you're diluting the value of the dollar, so the value of the dollar goes down. Well, money was printed, It went down here. Everybody had some more cash. And then they spent this cash. It goes up to corporations. And now you had all these new dollars that were printed. And now where are these dollars being concentrated now? Well, it went down here. But then a lot of these dollars just flowed back up here. So now we have this imbalance of dollars. We have more dollars being concentrated up here than we do here because money flowed up to the top. Money flowed to the wealthy. And so now you have a bigger concentration of dollars here. And now the people here, well, you may or may not have more savings than before. A lot of people actually have less savings than before now because the cost of everything is so much higher. But let's just assume that you have the same amount of money in the bank now. You're making the same salary as before. Well, you are poorer now than before, even if you have the same bank account, even if you have the same job, because that money that you earned is now being concentrated here. And the dollars that you have saved can't stretch as far. Your groceries are more expensive. Your rent is more expensive. Houses are more expensive. Vacations are more expensive. Healthcare is more expensive. Everything in the world is more expensive now because the value of our dollar is worth less thanks to inflation. And so you have each people here who have this fixed income. You have a salary which isn't growing fast enough to meet inflation. And then at the same time, you have a bigger concentration of dollars up here at the top. And who does this benefit? Well, it benefits the rich. It benefits the wealthy. And it's not just the corporation. I mean, it benefits the shareholders. Anybody can be an investor in Amazon. Anybody can be an investor in LVMH, the company that owns Louis Vuitton. These are companies that trade on the stock market. And so the people that benefited were the people that invested their money or had their money invested through 2021. Because if you did, you saw a massive return on your money. And this inflation that we saw happen didn't bother you that much because your investments grew even faster than inflation. Now, if you're thinking something like, Jaspreet, that's really mean. It's not nice for you to say these type of things. It's hurting my feelings. Well, money doesn't have feelings. Money is not emotional. This is just what the system is, and this is what is happening. So you can either understand it and learn from it, or you can choose to be oblivious from it, or you can just cry about it and complain about it, right? Remember what I talked about in the beginning? My goal here is to teach you what's happening, that way you can benefit from it. So now we understand what's going on. Now, the to-dos, what do you do? There are three things that you need to do. First, you gotta get financially educated. Second, you need to be prepared. And third, you gotta get your money. So I'm gonna talk about these three things. Let me start by talking about number one, why financial education is so important. I didn't grow up learning about financial education. I grew up in a traditional Indian house. I was supposed to be a doctor. Growing up, doing anything that wasn't related to science or math or medicine was considered a waste of time. I didn't know what investing was. I didn't know what a dividend was. I didn't know what real estate investing was. I didn't know what this was until I started learning about it myself. And the reality is we live in a day and age where it doesn't matter how much money you make. It's what you do with the money you make. If you make $250,000 a year, but you're spending $300,000 a year, it doesn't matter that you're making $250,000 a year. It doesn't matter that you have a big salary. You are one paycheck away from broke. You can live this $300,000 a year salary with a $250,000 a year income thanks to the help of credit card debt, thanks to the help of loans and lines of credit and buy now, pay later systems. This is what so many people are doing. You assume that, hey, I'm making good money. Let me go live like everybody else. Let me go buy the nice things. Let me go buy the Gucci and the Louis Vuitton so I can show it off on Instagram. I want to get those likes. And you can do that. But if you continue to live like that, you will never have the opportunity to build wealth because what you're doing right now is you are spending your money to make everybody else around you rich. So what you need to do right now is first you got to get financially educated. You got to understand that, okay, I want to build wealth. I want to become wealthy myself. I want to be rich. I want to stop getting screwed over by the system. And I want to be the person that can now benefit from the system. Once you make that decision for yourself, now you got to get educated and learn how do you do that. The first thing you got to do is stop spending all your money. Because when you spend all your money, well, guess what? Everybody else around you is rich. When you're buying Gucci, Gucci is getting rich. When you're buying Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton is getting rich. When you go out and buying the BMW, well, the car dealership and the BMW company is getting rich. It's not you. You look rich, but you stay broke. So what you need to do is first stop spending all your money. Start downsizing. That way you have some extra cash that you can put towards yourself. Now it's time for you to start learning. Maybe you're going to start learning about how to invest your money. Maybe you have a job, you don't want to leave your job, you like what you're doing. You're going to learn about how to invest your money, how to make better use of your money, because the cash in your bank is being eaten away by inflation every single day. If you have $1 million in the bank, well, that $1 million is losing about $70,000 worth of buying power every year right now. Because in 2021, we saw 7% inflation. That means the value of your dollar is going down by 7%. If you have $1 million in the bank, you might think you're rich, but it's not going to keep you as rich as you are today, because $1 million is going to lose buying power each and every day. And if you say, oh, Jaspreet, inflation is going to cool down. When? They said that inflation was going to cool down by mid-2021. Then they said it's going to cool down by the end of 2021. Now they're saying it's going to cool down by the end of 2022. But we have no end in sight yet. So don't keep waiting around. Don't wait for the Fed and the government to take care of you. Take care of yourself and stop keeping all of your cash in the bank and start understanding what you can do with your money. So now you get educated about how to invest your money. Maybe you start learning about stocks. Maybe you start learning about real estate investing. Maybe you start learning about how to earn more income, because now we're going through this great resignation. People are realizing that I can do something else with my money and my time. So now maybe you get a side hustle. Maybe you earn more money. Maybe you start your own business. You start to get educated that way. Once you have a financial system, you learn how to use your money, learn how to invest your money. Now you're just adding fuel to the fire. You're earning more money, that way you can put more money into your system. This is what being financially educated is all about, because now you know how to use your money the right way. You know how to use your money like wealthy people, but now you also got to be prepared. Do you know who hates market crashes? It's the average person. Because when you see a market crash, well, then your 401k gets cut in half, and then the value of your home gets sliced in half. But do you know who loves market crashes? Rich people and wealthy people. Because for them, market crashes is Black Friday, because now you can go out and buy investments at a discounted price. You can go out and start investing your money in stocks. You can go out and buy real estate. You can go out and buy cryptocurrency, and you can buy them at a discounted price. And then you just wait. You buy a good asset, you buy a good investment, and then you let the market go back up, and now you become wealthier. That's why market crashes and recessions make more millionaires than any other time, because rich people and wealthy people understand that booms and busts are a part of the cycle. So they understand this and they're prepared for it, that when something bad happens, they can come in and capitalize on it. For the average person, they're hoping and praying that something bad doesn't happen, and they're hoping and praying that their money will be okay. But the reality is things will go down. When? We don't know. But rich and wealthy people, and even if they're not rich and wealthy right now, rich and wealthy minded people are prepared for it, that when things go down, they can come in and take advantage of it. Just understanding the system, that way you can capitalize on it when the inevitable happens. Stop praying for things not to happen and be prepared for when it does happen. And that also means preparing your finances for when things do go wrong. Like when this pandemic hit, we saw half of American households hit crisis, actual financial crisis mode, because they weren't prepared. They didn't have savings, or they weren't prepared for losing a breadwinner. Unfortunately, we saw a lot of people die in 2020 and 2021 unexpectedly. I mean, it's very sad that that happened. But then also on top of that, you had all the families that were not financially prepared. So many people were not ready for the crisis that we were going to see in 2020 and 2021. They were not ready financially to prepare for that. And now so many households lost a breadwinner. And then you saw the GoFundMe funerals, where families had to go out and start a GoFundMe page because they didn't have money to fund their funeral, or they didn't have money to pay for their expenses. They didn't have money to pay for their kids. They didn't have money to pay for their lives, because they didn't expect that, and they didn't prepare for something like that to happen. One of the things that rich people and wealthy people always want to do is they want to be prepared for anything. And it's not a matter of, oh, they're rich, they can afford to do that. No, it's a matter of being rich and being wealthy in your mind before it actually happens. You have to start preparing yourself and be financially educated. That way you can be prepared for anything. One of the biggest and probably most painful financial lessons that we learned through this pandemic is, if you are not wealthy yet, if your family cannot survive just off of your assets, you need some sort of protection for your family in case a tragedy happens, using something like life insurance, because then life insurance is there to protect you, that if you were to die unexpectedly, well, then the insurance company will come in and and give your family a big check. That way, at least they can be okay financially. Now, I don't like the idea of investing in life insurance or trying to build wealth through life insurance. I like the idea of using life insurance as a tool, kind of as a bridge, that as you're building wealth, you have that cushion, that life insurance cushion that can protect you in case a tragedy happens. And then once you hit that wealth, once you got the assets, once you know that you and your family can rely on your assets without you having physically to go to work to put food on the table, well, now you don't need life insurance anymore because you're wealthy. But you need to have that life insurance kind of as a bridge to protect you as you're building wealth. That way you have that protection as you're working to build those assets. If you are interested in learning more about life insurance and you want to see how you can get a free quote, you can check out our sponsor, Policygenius. Policygenius makes it super simple and it's completely free on your end. They are a marketplace where all you have to do is enter in a few pieces of information, just takes a few minutes, and they will present you with different life insurance quotes from different providers. That way you can compare without getting bombarded with sales phone calls from different insurance agents that are trying to shove a whole bunch of insurance down your throat that you don't need. And life insurance doesn't have to cost you a whole lot either. Like if you're a healthy 30-year-old guy, you can get $1 million life insurance policy for like $30 a month. So it doesn't have to be very expensive, but you want to make sure you shop around. That way you're not overpaying for the same life insurance policy. That's why I like Policygenius, because after you enter your information, they're working to get you different quotes from different providers. That way you can pick the option that's best for you, aka the cheapest option. That way you don't overpay. Plus, if you need to talk to somebody or if you have questions, they have experts that you can talk to that aren't incentivized to sell you anything. So if you want to learn more and see how you can get a free life insurance quote, I'll put the link to where you can do that with Policygenius in the description below. Minority Mindset is a paid partner with Policygenius, so if you use them, we will get compensated, but there's no additional cost to you. So if you want to learn more and see how you can get a free life insurance quote, I'll put the link to where you can do that in the description below. Second thing is you always want to make sure that you have some savings. Now, I know your savings in the bank are being diluted because of inflation, but you want to make sure you have some cash savings to fall back on in case a pandemic happens, in case you lose your job, in case you break your arm, because you never know what's going to happen. So you want to have some cash to fall back on, and this is cash you keep in the bank that's easy to access, that's liquid, because now if something were to happen, now you can easily access this money and you don't got to worry about going into debt to pay for your arm repair. My arm! And then the third thing that you want to do when it comes to being prepared is you want to make sure that you're living a wealthy life. One of the things that people realized during this pandemic is they didn't like their jobs. That's why we're going through this great resignation where so many Americans are voluntarily quitting their jobs because they're just sick and tired of the way they were treated. They didn't like their lifestyle. They weren't doing something that they enjoyed. But now people are realizing that there's more to your job than just your paycheck. You want to live a happy and a wealthy life. And like I said before, wealth starts in your mindset before it does in your bank account. That's why we're called the minority mindset, because all success starts with your mindset. If you have a broke mindset, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to be broke because your mindset is broke. So the first thing you got to do is you got to have that wealthy mindset. And that means you want to be striving towards a wealthy life, not just a wealthy bank account. That means you want to be physically fit. You want to make sure that you take care of your physical health, because as we saw through this pandemic, you need to be physically healthy just in case anything happens. Then you want to be mentally fit. Mental fitness has become so much more important over the last couple of years, thankfully, where people are starting to understand the real value of mental health. So take care of your mental health. It is serious. It is important. If you are depressed, if you are anxious, and it's stopping you from being able to live your life, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you got to take care of that. Go into a treatment center if you have to. Go and get a therapist. Go and talk to a psychologist. Do whatever you got to do to take care of your mental health. Then you got to think about your spiritual health. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to be religious, but spiritual health is, what is your purpose? Why are you on this planet? What are you here for? If you don't have a purpose, you're not going to have a reason to get out of bed. But if you have the purpose, well, now you're going to want to get out of bed and start crushing your days because you love what you're doing and you're fighting for something. And that's when financial fitness, being financially wealthy, has the biggest impact. But this is why you want to be striving towards a wealthy life. That way you can live a fulfilled life, not just an empty life where you have a lot of money, but nothing else to show for it. The third thing that you got to do is you got to get your money, okay? You don't got to make money. The government and the Federal Reserve Bank are doing that. They are making money, they are printing money, and they are throwing it into the economic system. But what you need to do is you gotta attract your fair share. You gotta figure out how can you get your money into your pockets? How can you get more money into your pockets? Because at the end of the day, it costs money to eat. It costs money to put a roof over your head. It costs money to take your spouse on a vacation. It costs money to put your kids through school. It costs money to get the best health care. It costs money to buy a nice home. It costs money to have a nice car. It costs money to go to Disney World. It costs money to go to the theaters. It costs money to survive. Money is what fuels the economy. Money is what fuels the world. Now you can hate it or love it, but the reality is that is what it is. So it is your duty now to go out and get your share of the money. Now for some of you, this can be one of those things that's really hard to get your mind around because you grew up thinking and being told that money is evil. You shouldn't talk about money. You shouldn't worry about money. You shouldn't think about money like that. That's how I was raised to think. But at the same time, my parents were working their butt off every single day. My dad didn't get weekends off. He didn't get a Saturday and a Sunday off. He was working. He was working long hours every single day. And then he would tell me, don't worry about money. It's not something you should worry about. It just didn't make sense to me. But if you understand money, if you're prepared and you know how to get your money, well, then you can live a much better life for you. You can provide a better life for your family. You can provide a better life for your spouse. You can provide a better life for your kids. You can provide a better life for your community, and you can take care of people. And guess what? When you have money, people want to listen to what you have to say. So either you can continue living in this fairy tale life and tell yourself money doesn't matter and not care about it, or you can understand how the system works and get your money. Because it is your moral duty to produce something, to create value, that way now you can attract money and take care of yourself, take care of your family, and take care of your community. I'm not saying go out and do unethical things, go out and rob people, do all that. No. Produce value. Maybe that means be a better worker, be a better at your job, be a better whatever it is. Get another certificate. If you want to go down that route, be the best at what you want to do. If you don't want to work a job, well then go out and learn how to produce a product. Learn how to create more value in the economic system. Learn how to get your money. You need to understand how to attract and earn money. You don't need to create money. What you need to do is you need to learn how to earn money. What can you produce to get somebody else to open up their wallets and give you some money in exchange for something else? What do you have? What value do you have that you can offer the world that somebody else is going to want to pay you for that value? And if you can become good at that, well then you can charge more. If you become great at that, well then you can charge even more. And if you can become the best at that, well then you can charge even more. But you have to be good. And this takes effort, this takes practice, this takes skill, but you have to do that if you want to be able to get your money. We live in this world where a lot of people assume that rich people got rich just because of luck. Rich people became wealthy just because it fell into their laps. But you ignore all the hustle, the hardship, the learning, and everything else that goes into it in order to get there. You can do it too. It doesn't matter where you start, it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter where you come from. YouTube has decentralized education. That's why I love YouTube, because now you can learn anything you want from whoever you want. You can learn from people that are actually doing it, and it's going to cost you nothing. It costs you $0 to go out and learn how to invest. It costs you $0 to go out and learn how to start a business. It costs you $0 to go out and learn how to get another job. It costs you $0 to learn any of this. And if you don't like your teacher on YouTube, just go find another teacher. That is why YouTube is changing the game, especially when it comes to education. But now you have to go out and start learning, and then you got to do something. But it is in your hands. Doesn't matter where you come from. First you got to learn, then you got to have the right mindset, and then you got to do. It's not easy, but it's not impossible either. If you want it, you can get it, but it is your duty to get your money. That way you can take care of yourself, you can take care of your family, and you can take care of your community, because if you don't do it, nobody else will. I'm telling you straight from myself here, because these are things that I never grew up being told. These are things that I never grew up learning. I saw how hard my parents worked. My grandparents were refugees. I have seen all the hardships and struggles that my community, my religion has gone through, which is why I want to go out and do something that way people listen to me, that way people can learn from me, that way then I can spread the message about what has happened, and I can talk about the things that I want to. If you want to go out and make an impact in the world, guess what? If you have money, you can make a bigger impact. What's up, everybody? If you want to continue building your financial education, I linked a relevant video here that I think you'll love. And as an added bonus, I have a free guide on how you can start generating passive income that you can download and read for free. All you got to do is click that button, Below. You cannot perfectly time the market. Nobody knows when a market crash is going to happen. No one knows if it's going to happen tomorrow, next year, or in 5 years or 10 years.